Hello friends and welcome into the Cowboys Report. I am your host Tom Downey. Go follow me on Twitter at WhatGoingDowney for As It Happens training camp updates. That's what we're going to focus in on here today. But you guys know what we're going to start with, right? That is Zeke watch, where we sit right now with the Dallas Cowboys and the holdout of one Ezekiel Elliott. Now, as you guys know by now, Zeke's late. He is officially not reported on time to the Dallas Cowboys. Now, the Cowboys, this is the big update and the main update here. They do have an offer out to Zeke at the moment, but per Jane Slater, who has done a great job on the story so far, his camp has not yet accepted or submitted a counter offer. So the Soda's kind of taking that offer in. Now, at one level, it's like, wait, why does it take so long to go through an offer? However, this is mostly speculation here. If this is an in-depth offer with all kinds of different impacts and actual breakdowns of per year and not just okay, here's 4 years, $60 million, and in-depth, this is how the money breaks down each per year, that's actually going to take time to go over. So that could be why you've seen Zeke and his camp not yet make a counter offer. And I will make note here for Elliott, he is still subject to fines while not at camp. Now, we also know, in the general sense, what the per year of this deal is going to look like. It's going to be worth at least $14.5 million per year, probably going to be closer, and if not above, $15 million per year, because that's what Todd Gurley got last year. And I emphasize the last year part, because Gurley was when his deal was signed, had a different salary cap. It has gone up since then. So this is not a huge surprise here in terms of Gurley and Zeke and what the money is going to look like. And despite that, Zeke is still not here. He's not in Cowboys camp. They have their second practice today in like a couple of hours. But as of right now, there is no Zeke at Dallas Cowboys training camp. The big date in terms of checking in, let's go ahead and check back in here in a little bit. Let's check in around the August 6th deadline, for example. That's probably, if Zeke's not there by August 6th, that's when now wait a minute, let's check in and, okay, what's going on here? Why isn't Zeke shown up? So from that perspective, that's the next, deadline, so to speak. I don't know if we're going to get to that point by then. Maybe the deal will be signed. Maybe Zeke will show up before that. I'm not sure yet, but it's not quite reached the, oh my God, everybody panic, the world is about to fall down. But folks, that is the latest as we sit right now on Ezekiel Elliott and his holdout right now with the Dallas Cowboys. Now, if you guys want more updates on training camp, everything else around the Cowboys from here until the preseason, week 1 of the regular season, make sure you are subscribed. We are approaching that 30K mark, another 300 over the past 2 days, but those are rookie numbers. Let's pump those numbers up. We got, how many of you guys watching live right now? Let me double check here. Almost 300 watching right now. So I hope you all are subscribed. If you aren't, let's go and hit that big red button here on YouTube. We're going to be live a bunch going forward, so also make sure you have notifications turned on here for the Cowboys Report. Let's talk more contracts, and then we'll come back to some more actual on-the-field stuff for training camp here. Dak Prescott. Now, both he and Amari Cooper, they're not really concerned. They're not worried about their contracts. Prescott says, I'm not here to talk about my deal. Now, getting Dak's deal done before Jared Goff's deal is important to me. I'm not sure, though, if the Cowboys feel quite as that same sense of urgency. I don't feel that same sense of urgency there because they didn't with Carson Wentz, and that's really not how they do deals anyway. The good news is, historically speaking, training camp has been a good time for the Cowboys to get long-term deal dones. Now, Dak Prescott here. This was his quote. It will happen when it happens. I'm not here to talk about my contract and that stuff. Talks, I'm sure, because he's just saying the agent's doing most of it, are at this point continuously happening. For me, it's to come out here and focus on this, not be distracted by any of that stuff, blah, 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 get to be the best player he is and all of that. And I like that mindset from Dak Prescott. That's why he hired a good agency in CAA, and it's like, you guys worry about my money. I'm going to worry about being the best quarterback I can for the Dallas Cowboys. Meanwhile, Amari Cooper, he is taking a more, not relaxed approach, but more, maybe wait and see is the right term there. I don't want to say laissez-faire because that doesn't really make much sense. Anyway, here's the point because I got off topic there. My bad. Cooper is waiting on deals for Julio and Michael Thomas and others. And the longer Cooper waits, the more his price tag goes up. He ain't worried because he knows he's going to get paid by the Dallas Cowboys. Now, here is his quote, by the way. I guess I'm just optimistic about it, and it's something that's going to happen whether it's today, tomorrow, or whenever. I'm not worried about me getting hurt or something like that and about it not happening. which is what AJ Green is now dealing with, by the way. He says, quote, I just don't think like that. I just want to be here. I want to be here running routes, catching balls from Dak. Again, I like these mindsets from Amari Cooper and Dak Prescott. They're not worried. They feel confident that those dudes are going to get done. And when they do get done, they're going to be very, very pricey for those players, and it'll be worthwhile. So the triplets here, the new triplets, not quite the same as the OGs because nothing is ever as good as the original. But who should Dallas re-sign first? Type D for Dak Prescott, Z for Zeke Elliott, or A for Amari Cooper. I am still of the mindset, you got to pay Dak Prescott first. He needs to get his deal done first so you can save money, especially with Jared Goff's contract also coming up in the near future. Now, if Amari wants to wait, I get where he's coming from. There's not much you can do there. And in that case, maybe I'd pay Zeke first. But I do think Dak needs to be the priority here, just from a timing perspective of other deals coming up. Although I do see plenty of Z's in the comments here as well, and I understand where you're coming from. All right, let's go back here to Zeke, and as it relates to the running back side of things, as you guys know by now, Zeke ain't here. It is a holdout. He is not a member of the Dallas Cowboys at training camp, even though almost everybody else is. The other guy who wasn't there was Xavier Woods. Congratulations, Xavier. Just had his first kid. So congratulations, Xavier, on that front. A very good reason to not be at camp. Happy for him there. Meanwhile, for Zeke, again, he's not there. And as a result, it has not been Tony Pollard, at least on the first day of camp. It was actually Darius Jackson who got most of the first team work with the starters. Now, before anyone panics and goes, oh my God, what are the Cowboys doing? Darius Jackson's not that good. Remember, at this point in the season, at this point in the preseason, you're really kind of leaning more on the guys who have had experience, who a little bit more in-depth knowledge of the playbook. And that's where Darius Jackson fits. The experience here gets him the first crack. Now, Tony Pollard also got work with the ones, but without Zeke for right now only, this is a little bit more what the depth chart looks like. Now, come week 4 of the preseason, if Zeke's not here, I think you'll see Tony Pollard has usurped Darius Jackson, and maybe even Mike Weber too. But the order of operations in terms of running backs right now, it's Darius Jackson as that number 1. And again, I'll emphasize it's kind of in air quotes right now because it'll change. Jackson at the 1, then Tony Pollard, and then Mike Weber, Jordan Shun kind of just splitting time with the 2s there. But again, long term, Tony Pollard carries a lot more value and focus for the Cowboys offense than Darius Jackson. But again, this is just because Jackson has the experience. And these first 2 days of camp, guys, I mean, they've almost been like a walk-through OTA type camp. The pads aren't even on yet for the Cowboys in full. So from that perspective, don't worry too much about it, but I did want to make note about it here with as things sit. Now, in terms of those backup running backs, how much trust do you have in them? Grade on a scale of 1 to 10. I was going to do faith, and then I realized, well, faith kind of requires a little bit of just blind trust, so I didn't want to do faith. Instead, I went with trust there. Scale of 1 to 10. What is it? Let me know in the comment section. Phil Productions, he says 8. Ryan Gore says 5. Willie C says 3. A couple of 7s from NFC East. Eric, Juanito, Troy says 6. Tony says 3. Tanner says 5. So we're kind of in that 5 to 7 range for the most part. I think that's fair. In terms of for like a game or two, it'd probably be up more in that 7 to 8 range for me. If it's for an entire season, I think it'd be a little bit lower, more of the 3 range. Good point here from NFC Stub, who says, I'd give any running back at least a 7 behind the O-line. That's a fair point as well. Now, in terms of training camp schedules here for the Dallas Cowboys, these are the next 5 days. Today, and by the way, all these times are of the local Oxnard time, so it's really 3:30 Pacific Coast time, and then here in Dallas, it's really 5:30. So just time up your Twitter afternoons. Tomorrow, 3:30. July 30th, 10:45 a.m. an early day. The next day is an off day. That's the Cowboys' lone off day over the next 5 days, and then back to their normally scheduled 3:30 practice time. Let's go to some injury notes here. This one not so great. Chris Covington has been placed on the active NFI list, meaning he can come off in the near future. That's the non-football injury list with a hamstring issue. Apparently, he pulled it during the team's conditioning test, which is not great. Now, he'll be back, I'm sure, in the near future, but that's not how a player who the Cowboys are hoping can actually be the long-term Sam linebacker, the strong side linebacker. It's not what they want out of him. Now, Shawn Lee, of course, more on him coming up, is going to be your starter. But the Cowboys are hopeful that Covington can take a step forward, and probably not this year, but next year even, as soon as then, he can actually be that other starter in the mold of a Damian Wilson type player. Problem is, a young guy like Covington used to be a quarterback at Indiana. He kind of needs some more reps at linebacker, so hopefully he's able to get back soon. I feel pretty confident that'll be the case. It's just a pulled hamstring. It's more of a precautionary move, but that very much is worth mentioning. Now, some other players out for the Cowboys right now due to injury concerns. There's the 4 guys on the PUP, the physically unable to perform list. Tyrone Crawford and his hip, Noah Brown and his knee, DeMarcus Lawrence and his shoulder, and Byron also with his hip. My expectation is those guys are back soon, especially those first 2 guys on the list, and they should all be good to go well before week 1, especially Crawford, Brown, and Covington. All right, guys, as promised, I asked for you guys to DM me on Twitter not that long ago on our last show. These were the 5 people, by the way, who did it pretty much instantaneously. They all got it in at like 3:23, almost on the dot there in terms of the timing. Travis did it, Yark Stark, Molten Citrus, Mario, and Adam. Thank you guys very much. I promised you more than a shout-out. I have not responded to anybody because I'm just behind and I got to catch up, but I will get to that with the other possible rewards involved there. So thank you guys very much, but I did want to give you guys the first shout-out for being the first 5 to DM me. Back over now to the linebacker spot. Shawn Lee, he's going to play some special team this year, which on one hand goes, well, of course your strong side linebacker is going to play special teams. And then you remember, wait a minute, this is Shawn Lee. He's going to be on special teams. It's kind of weird to think about that in a bubble there. So, yes, he is going to play special teams, and Lee is on board with this, by the way. He just wants to be on the field. I mean, he's the ultimate team-first player. Shawn Lee is on board with it, and hopefully, by the way, the injury problems do not reveal themselves with Shawn Lee, as has been the case over pretty much his entire career. When he's been on the field, namely 2016, 2015, I mean, he was insane. And those 11 games in 2017, he was awesome. But he barely played last year, and the Cowboys have been able to replace him with players like Jalen Smith and Leighton Vander Esch, so he will be asked to still play, but it's not going to be the same role that we remember from prime Shawn Lee. By the way, as we have the linebacker depth chart up here, DJ Chill, Will Evans, yes, there actually are 2 Chris Covingtons on the Dallas Cowboys. Pretty sure it's the only 2 Chris Covingtons in the NFL. One is the defense tackle they signed out from the Houston Texans, went to Rice. And then the linebacker Covington, 6th-round pick last year out of Indiana. Now, question for you guys, and we'll do some Q&A here coming up, so just stay tuned for that. Who is your favorite Cowboys player? Now, for the longest time, my answer has always been Shawn Lee. And he will always have a spot in my heart as one of my all-time favorite Cowboys. But as I know that Shawn Lee's time is kind of winding down with Dallas, and that's okay. That's the nature of the NFL, though it's not, an ideal world. More and more, it's Jalen Smith for me. Funny how I just replaced him with another linebacker. So let me know in the comment section your favorite Cowboys player. I see Dak and Zeke and LVE, DeMarcus Lawrence, King Pika said Jalen Smith too. There are all kinds of great answers there, and of course, there are no wrong answers either for your favorite Cowboys player. Another injury note here. This one, good news. Trysten Hill, nobody panic. He's fine. We had a 10-minute freak-out moment on Twitter because Trysten Hill went down, and then he got carted off, and my first thought was, I hope this is only cramps, and if you follow me on Twitter at What Going Downy, I was right. It was only cramps, thankfully, which happens in training camp. It's hot out in Oxnard. You're going to deal with cramps. So a lot of players are going to deal with that. Get the man some pickle juice. He'll be okay. So it's only cramps in the end for Trysten Hill. Great news there. And the Cowboys hope, by the way, especially with Tyrone Crawford out right now, that guys like Trysten Hill can take advantage of the early training camp reps. And hopefully Hill can step in and help in a big, big way at the 3 technique spot. Malik Collins is a good player when healthy, but he's not healthy very often. So Trysten Hill has a real chance to make an impact for this Dallas Cowboys team. Hopefully he's able to. After all, he was the Cowboys' first pick this year. 2nd round, of course, but their first actual pick. Hopefully he is able to make that big-time impact. All right, guys, today's show was brought to you by our friends over at MyBookie. Head over to chatsports.com/Cowboys. Use the promo code on your screen, Go Cowboys. That gets you a 100% deposit bonus. You put down $50, they give you $50 for free to bet with. Pro tip, bet against the Giants because they're going to be terrible this upcoming year. One last training camp notes here on the Dallas Cowboys. That is around Kellen Moore and the offense. I feel confidence in this is going to be a fact here. It is going to feature more pre-snap motion, and thank God. Now, this is something I have wanted since Moore really took over here. The early looks in terms of OTAs, minicamp, and now the training camp as well. More pre-snap motion on almost every single play. So it's going to feature similar plays, the offense will, but the presentation will be different. So the quote-unquote new concepts that I wanted to see for the Cowboys offense, number one was more pre-snap motion. Let's go ahead and put a big old green check mark on that one. I feel pretty confident about it. Number two, I wanted all of the play action. We'll have to wait and see. Same with more crossing routes. I feel pretty good the defense will be spread out more, and they'll use Dak's legs in the red zone more. But all of these things might be new. Most NFL teams use them. Hopefully Kellen Moore here can get them up to speed in terms of the Dallas Cowboys. I think that's a feasible goal here for Dallas. So if you want to get excited about Kellen Moore, I'm not going to drink the Kool-Aid quite yet. I'm going to hold off at least until week 1 of the preseason. I think maybe even longer because I don't want to have a repeat of the Dak-friendly offense from last year that never materialized. I feel more confident about Kellen Moore, but I do still want to wait and see. Hey Cowboys fans, thanks for watching the Cowboys Report. If you haven't already, click right here to subscribe to our channel for all the best Cowboys coverage on the internet. That's news, rumors, highlights, mailbags, film studies, and a whole lot more. And I'm making your lives a little bit easier as well with the next Cowboys Report video right here.